Hey guys, so welcome back. We were sitting here thinking, we're just coming back into YouTube again after, COVID, baby, all that stuff. So we're trying to figure out a new series that we could do on top of like video logs and stuff like that. So came up with the idea of bedtime stories, and essentially, it's going to be we're essentially just going to be talking about random things that have happened. Um, so tonight we're actually going to start off with the raccoons. So uh, the video before last, we told you guys we were inside of an apartment and we had sold the house. So there was a whole backstory that we never got to tell you guys about, and it dealt with raccoons. And later on in the video, we'll show you some of the pictures of exactly why we left and how everything unfolded. So, you wanna start it?
So at that point, I think I was probably like 6 or 7 months pregnant. We had just gotten back home from getting some baby stuff. So we had our dogs on the bed. They were at the foot of the bed, and we were just watching TV like normal. And for the about 3 days before that, because we knew we had something in our attic, but we didn't know it was raccoons. Actually, we did because Josh had popped up there one day and he had saw a raccoon, but
Yeah,
for the most part, we thought we just had squirrels.
because we kept hearing things like pitter patter, up in the attic and stuff like that, and we kind of thought they were squirrels because you could hear them in the walls, and so we were just like, okay, and then you'd hear them fighting, and that was the day that I poked my head up there because we thought we heard some squirrels fighting each other. You know what? It's cool if you live in the attic, but you're not gonna be fighting in our house, all right? So I popped the ladder out. I went to go poke my head up so I could break up the little fight, and it wasn't squirrels. It was a little tiny raccoon. Well, I wouldn't say tiny. It was probably a year old. Beautiful. I got pictures right here.
So anyway, so like I said, for the past 3 days, we had been hearing like the pitter patters, and especially like for me, I would always know like where they were because our dogs would hear it first, and so they would bark or like. So I mean, and it was kind of like they were following us. So like we would always hear them like if we were downstairs in our family room, like that's where they were. If we were in the kitchen, that's where they were. If we were in our bedroom, then like that's where they were. So it was weird. It was like that for 3 days. But again, we just assumed that it was a squirrel, so we didn't think anything of it. And so we're sitting on the bed, and like I said, we had like just gotten comfortable and everything, and then all of a sudden, was it two or three?
It was two.
Two raccoons just fall straight through the ceiling.
So to put in like the one raccoon was only 6 months old, so a little bit smaller, and then the second one, the one that we were more worried about, that big girl, she was about 30 pounds. Like she was bigger than the dogs, and I mean the whole ceiling fell out. Here's some of the pictures of the hole that they created. So anyway, they dropped out and they landed at the foot of the bed. The little one fell off immediately, and the big girl, she jumped over to the windowsill and kind of like clung to the window frame. And at this point, Stetson and Chaps, they're freaking out. They're like running up to Sherelle, like jumping on her, and Sherelle's freaking out. I had the gun behind me, so I kind of like reached back real quick because this was, I mean, you don't play around with these big raccoons like this big girl was. So I reached back, I grabbed my gun, and I rolled up. It was like 15, like I wouldn't even say 15 seconds. It was like 5 seconds. I reached back, I rolled up, and I told Sherelle, I said, "Cover your ears." And she said, "But the boys," and I said, "Cover your ears." And I shot center mass one time, and she just kind of hung on. at that point. And we kind of knew that was like our opportunity to exit because she wasn't moving. She was still alive. She was breathing. She was just holding on to the window frame at that point and wasn't doing anything. So we got the boys out and get Sherelle out of the house to go down to the car. And on the way out, though, looking up into the window.
Oh. So at this point, it was after we had already called the exterminator. Or well, he wasn't an exterminator. He was a like the people you call to catch
Pest
animals.
control.
Yeah. And so at this point I was calling my mom and like we were just trying to figure out what we were gonna do, and I had walked back onto the to our deck, and from the back deck you could see you have a good like view of our window and the room next to us. So when I looked up, I could just see the big raccoon. She was just like hanging onto the window, like she was like clutched onto it. So that was creepy. She was like in the blinds, and then like because the other one, the smaller one, it made its way through a hole to the other room where the pest guy he caught that one. So from I don't really know much else from that point because I didn't go back in. So
No. Well, so we got Sherelle into the car, and pest guy showed up. And while I'm waiting for the pest guy to show up, I look over and I see this raccoon kind of jet towards the water because our house was on the water. So I'm a little bit confused at that point, right? Because I threw the deadbolt so that when the pest guy got there, because we had electronic locks, so I didn't want to give him the code. So just kind of threw the deadbolt so it rested up against the door frame, so when he got there, he could just kind of walk in and go do his thing. I didn't know I was going to be a part of this evolution. So I've still got my gun on my hip, and he shows up. I've just seen a raccoon run by. I don't know if it's a small one, if it's the big one. I don't even know if it's the same one. So we go into the house, and he opens up the room where the little one had ran into, and he's looking around. He kept the lights off because if you turn the lights on, you couldn't really see shadows. So he kept the lights off, and he takes his flashlight and he's shining around trying to see if he can see the shadow. Well, he shines it over into the window, and we had these bamboo mini blinds at the time for that window, and little baby raccoon is like up in the window, up against the frame, and we would have never found him because you really couldn't see him unless you had a flashlight shined on him. So he shined and he was like, hey, look, he's right there. So this dude proceeds to ask me, hey, can you videotape me catching this for my Facebook page? And I was like, sure, I get it. Social media is great advertisement, right? If he can land this, perfect. That video never went up. So I'm standing there in the door, like I shut the door a little bit, I reached my hand in with his camera, and I'm like doing this, like I'm trying to like stay out of there, because he's getting ready to like irritate the crap out of this little raccoon. And so he opens up the blind, goes to grab him, dude loses it. I mean, running all over the place, screaming, yelling, he misses the lasso around the neck, all this stuff. So the little one made it back into the big room now, right? We don't know where the big girl is at this point. We don't know if she's still in there. We don't know what's going on. So we go walking in very cautiously. The little one's up in the window again. And then he ended up falling down beside the bed. And so we had to scoot the bed out while still trying to trap him in there. It was just a big mess. It took about 6 or 7 minutes to get this small raccoon, which we found out was like 6 months old. The big girl wasn't in there. So we followed her blood trail, which according to the pest guy, he said that was, it was plasma. So my shot was a good shot apparently. And she wasn't going to make it through the night, unfortunately. But she had made her way through the hole where we were doing some renovation, made her way downstairs and was checking windows downstairs. Like you could see her blood on the window frames and all the mini blinds that she had messed up. And then she made her way into the computer room, tried to check those windows, and then over to the kitchen where she proceeded to climb up on the counter and she held herself up on the cabinets and opened up that door that we had propped and made her way out of the house. We don't know where she's at. But he guaranteed us that she wasn't going to make it through the night with the amount of plasma that was all over the room. Essentially, at the end of the day, that was just a big mess. And I know for me, like, I've shot plenty of guns. I've had plenty of training with the military for weapon handling and just being a country boy, period, right? But I've never had to fire my weapon in my house. That took it to a whole nother level. For me, after that day, I wasn't comfortable going back in that house without my gun, but then there was just still a part of me that wasn't comfortable living in that house anymore.
For anybody who's thinking like, why did he have to shoot it? The reason he shot it was because she started to go after it was either one of us or the dogs. So, and we didn't know if they had rabies or we didn't know. So, he didn't. That wasn't our first choice, but
I don't want to shoot an animal. I don't like taking, like, even when I'm fishing, guys, like, I catch and release, mostly because I don't eat a lot of fish, but two, like, I like catching fish. It's fun, the little fight, and then you release them and you see them swim off. Like, that's God's creation. I don't want to cause harm to that unless I'm going to harvest it and use it for food, which I'm not going to do that with the raccoon. The situation was she jumped on the window, and when she looked back at us, she looked like she was coming back again. I've got a pregnant wife sitting there. I've got 2 dogs sitting there. I've got to do something. And I'm not trying to go hands-on with a 30-pound raccoon. I don't think my odds would have fared very well. So I made a quick decision. And like the pest guy, he said, "Oh, I wouldn't shoot in your house because you can hit your water pipe." Bro, I'm not worried about the water pipes in the walls at this point, right? But I did check to see where the bullet went because it was a straight through. The bullet is still in the window frame at that house. I'm sure whoever bought the house, because it is sold, I'm sure whoever bought the house kind of patched over that, and that bullet's still sitting in there. But I know for, like, even for Sherelle, she wasn't comfortable going back in there anymore.
I was not going back in that house.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do because I was like, if I had to sleep in the car, I'll sleep in the car because I'm not going back in that house. And he said that he wasn't surprised. He was surprised that we weren't sick because he went up to, because initially his plan was to just patch up the hole, and then we'd have it fixed.
Yeah.
But he went up there and he immediately came back down and he was like, oh no, with the amount of feces and everything else, he was like, I'm surprised you guys aren't sick. So
and he said he didn't have the right gear at that point. She's trying to take her sock off. So we have this sock called the Owlet sock, and it monitors Kava's heart rate and O2 level, and she's trying to take it off right now. But anyway, so we'll try to finish it up real quick because I have a feeling she's just going to make tonight difficult. So yeah, he gets up there and he's like, I don't have the right gear on, and he refused to go up there. And the little piece of mesh that he brought with him to cover up the hole, it's nowhere near big enough. The mesh that he brought was like 6 inches. This hole was like 4 feet. So he comes back down and he says, I can file the claim with the insurance company, but what he's estimating currently from what he's able to see, he was saying it was at least $11,000 worth of damage up in the attic. That wasn't even drywall replacement. That was sucking out insulation, removing feces, all this stuff.
And guys, okay, so honestly, this house will be in a lot of our story times or bedtime stories because, yeah, we have so many stories about that house. We're not supposed to be in that house, and I think the Lord tried to tell us that several times. So at that point, when he said it was gonna be like $11,000, we were like, oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah, at that point that was the final deciding factor. We ended up going back to Delaware and staying with my mom for that weekend. And then we came back and we had some really good friends, Teddy and Rebecca. They used to rent their a spare room in their house out as an Airbnb kind of thing. So they offered it to us, didn't charge us anything, and kind of gave us an opportunity to get housing squared away for us and 2 dogs. That's how we ended up here in this apartment. And yeah, so that's the raccoon story. And just in case you're wondering, I Googled how common it is for raccoons to fall out of the ceiling on people while they're laying in bed. Our case probably ended the best that it could have ever ended. There is a guy that, like, one of the stories, it happens more often than you think, but there was a story specifically because people at my job, like my chain of command, they did not believe.
Nobody believes the story.
Yeah, no. When we tell them that we were laying in bed and raccoons fell out of the ceiling, nobody believes that. Not one person. And I don't blame them because it sounds completely off the wall, like that would never happen. But Google it yourself and look at how many times raccoons fall on people while they're laying in bed. The one that I specifically remember, this dude was laying in bed and this raccoon fell down on top of his head and scratched his whole face. The dude had to have, like, I think it said he had to have skin grafts and everything because he ended up in like a fight with this raccoon because all the scratches and all that stuff, and it just kept attacking him. And yeah, he had like numerous surgeries and all that stuff. So look, it was scary, but we weren't harmed. Our dogs weren't harmed. Sherelle wasn't harmed. I wasn't harmed. The only thing that was harmed was the drywall above our bed, and we had to throw away, obviously, our linens and stuff like that. But outside of that, we had family that let us stay with them until we could get back here. We had friends that helped us move stuff out. We had, oh man, it's just a bunch of people. Teddy went back in with me and was helping me, like, that week get stuff out and into the storage unit. We had Josue and Andrew Graver. No, we're not related. I still don't think we are. We haven't really dug down that line. Anyway, Andrew and Josue, they came and they helped us, like, physically pack stuff up into a U-Haul and move over here to this apartment. And they didn't ask for any money. It was like friendship kind of things. And we still owe both of you dinner. Yeah. It's a year and a half late, but we still owe you dinner. COVID happened, so.
Really want to thank Teddy and Rebecca.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They definitely because there was no way we could go back to that house. So we did have other friends offer us a place to stay, and we appreciate them too.
Yeah.
And honestly, we just appreciate the village that we've been able to grow here. But Teddy and Rebecca it just made the most sense. Again, we just appreciate it, and we love you guys. So if you're watching this, we love y'all and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All of that happened within like a 2-week span.
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy.
We stayed with them for a week, I think.
Yeah, we stayed with Teddy and Rebecca for a week, and then my mom helped us with the deposit on this apartment, which, man, guys, we had so many problems with that house that my credit took a massive hit, and we ended up having to short sale the house. That's another story for another time, but just know my credit wasn't in a place to get us the apartment that we're in now. And it even said it on the application. But so our deposit, they approved us, probably mainly because I'm active duty and they knew they were going to get their pay or their rent. So, but we had a deposit that we had to pay, and it was astronomical, and we didn't have that saved up. So my mom lent that to us, and we ended up paying that back to her later on. But
and then my parents gave us money. We just had a lot of help.
Yeah. We
just had a lot of help.
Overwhelmed by the amount of support in an overwhelming period of our life. So it was good. Definitely made things a little bit easier on us. Well, we're gonna cut it here. Kava's still not sleeping, so yeah, that's the end of the raccoon story. And now you have something interesting that you can talk about at dinner. and check your attics. After we posted the pictures that weekend of what happened, I can't tell you how many text messages and like Facebook Messenger and all this stuff of like people telling me, "Yo, you had me go check my attic, and I don't even have an attic." Like people were like looking around because they were so scared. But yeah, anyway, that's the end of it, guys. We'll see you next time for Bedtime Stories with Josh and Sherelle. See you later.
Bye.